can't start a show when you're sitting on your microphone. It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the Alabama Slam podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
And what's up, guys? We are the new owners of the WWE.
That is right.
The Alabama Slam. We pulled together $6.5 billion.
That's right.
From the Saudis. We have to... We're cursed at this point.
Yeah, here's the deal. Every time we record on a Thursday afternoon, right? And the shit pops off Friday morning or Friday afternoon.
It's a Friday afternoon, the traditional Friday afternoon news dump, where you want to just put some news out there that gets the least amount of press because everybody's, it's a Friday, the end of the week.
Yeah, so by the time we, get around to discussing the shit, it's a week old at that point. So... old news at this point is that Vince is back, right? He comes back Friday afternoon, and then Tuesday, Stephanie is like, peace, I'm out.
Right.
And then within 2 hours of that, there's rumors that, the WWE is selling to the Saudis. So a lot of people think, well, here's how it happened. Stephanie was like off the record, I'm out because he's fitting to sell to the Saudis, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I could put my tinfoil hat here on for a second. I love to put my tinfoil hat on.
Hey, this is why we do this show.
This is tinfoil Patrick here. I think what happened was Stephanie stepped down, which triggered a bunch of news outlets to contact her and be like, what the hell? Why are you stepping down? To which she could say, hey, off the record, or someone in Stephanie's camp could say, completely off the record, here's what's fixing to go down. Work to try to get it confirmed. And I think she knew, or someone in her camp knew, that it wasn't a done deal yet at this point, and that Stephanie McMahon's camp or whoever's camp leaked this out so that Vince and the shareholders and everybody else could see how much of a clusterfuck it's going to be, public perception-wise, if this thing were to go through and the Saudis were to purchase WWE.
Yeah, I mean, there's heavy rumors about, and then, no specific names, but people say there's a lineup of people that are ready to bounce if it gets sold to them.
There would be a lot of people I feel that would walk. And here's the thing. Look, we have to put this in perspective. Saudi Arabia, is it the nicest country in the world for human rights? Absolutely not. And that's putting it very, very mildly, right?
Right.
They do have a lot of stakes in a lot of companies like Disney and EA Sports and all these other things. So, unfortunately, the way the world is set up, a lot of the companies that we like are in bed with some probably bad people, right? The difference is Disney and all these companies, they're publicly owned companies. So, at the end of the day, they're beholden to all the shareholders, not just to one governmental entity, right? The difference is, from what these rumors were, the Saudis were going to buy this thing outright and take it private.
Right.
Which means they can do whatever the hell they want
and then pretty
with
much
no repercussions.
Put Vince in charge, right?
Yeah, and that was another thing people were talking about was like, oh, Vince is wanting to sell to somebody that's going to put him back in charge.
Right. Well, I mean, he immediately, if I'm not mistaken, took 2 members off the board and then stated 2 of his people to get votes to go the way he wants anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, the joke has been made, at this point ad nauseum, but this is straight up Succession, which makes me think, Vince McMahon, notorious workaholic, right? Doesn't watch a lot of TV. Did someone just get in his ear like, hey man, you got some time on your hands since you're not CEO, why don't you watch this show Succession? It's really cool. Did he just fucking watch all of Succession and be like, you know what? Logan Roy's like, fuck them kids. I'm taking this shit back.
Them kids.
I'm going to do what I want to do.
It was funny as shit. Shout out to the podfather, Conrad Thompson, Tuesday night when all this was going down. He just tweeted out just simply a picture of Siobhan from Succession.
Yeah.
And I was just flat out rolling.
Obviously we are not legal experts or business experts by any sense, but from everything that I've read, it seems like there is nothing that's going to stop Vince McMahon from selling this company if he wants to.
No, I mean...
they couldn't even stop him from coming back as CEO, right?
Right.
Or chairman or putting himself, whatever the hell he is.
And what are the chances that he comes in and does this, and if they don't make a sale real quick, what are the chances he's not just like sticking his fingers in everything this week, like in terms of like, oh well, this is how this match is going to go down, and then he's got his hands in creative again all of a sudden and shifts. I mean, the only reason I started watching WWE again recently was because Vince walked away.
Right. You and a lot of other people.
And I mean, yeah, several other people that I know personally, but like, come on.
And that's the only part that, at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that's the only thing that matters to fans, but that's the biggest part, right? It's like, what does the TV show look like?
Yeah.
And, he said, and there's been reports, Vince is only interested in, he's only come back to sell this company. Triple H, he's satisfied with everybody in charge. Okay, and for how long?
Yeah.
They're about to have the biggest WrestleMania of all time. They just broke the live gate for WrestleMania with not a single match announced.
We're finna have to watch Goldberg wrestle somebody.
And that's the thing. You think Vince McMahon's going to want to be out of that completely? He's going to want to take credit for that, right? In some sense. So, I don't know, man.
Don't nobody need to see Goldberg at WrestleMania.
It is a wild time. I will say that, like, it was fun. Twitter was up in flames. Oh, they're selling to the Saudis. But I did think it was weird that no one from, like, CNBC or, any of these big-time major news outlets were the ones that, like, confirmed this story in the moment, right? They all kind of probably were asleep and then woke up and was like, what the hell's happening?
I was up past my bedtime. My ass is old. I go to bed about 9:30 on a weeknight.
Yeah.
And I think you texted me, because I was watching the Golden Globes with my wife.
Yeah.
And you texted me and were like, did you see this shit about the sale? Because I had already kind of checked out of Twitter. I refreshed every couple minutes for about a half hour, 45 minutes when they were like, Stephanie is out. But then I just kind of lost interest in Twitter. And you were like, hey, did you see this shit? It's popping off already.
And the Stephanie stepping down as co-CEO was reported by, like, Variety and, like, major news outlets, right? This Saudi sale rumor was only reported by, like, the wrestling media. Which, again, if we want to put our tinfoil hat on, that's why Stephanie's camp or whoever's camp went to the wrestling media with this news, because they know that the what am I trying to say? The barometer, the credibility scale for wrestling media is so far low, right? As opposed to, like, the New York Times or Washington Post or whatever, that they'll just take this rumor and just put it on Twitter and report it. Therefore, you can get the online reaction that then, shows everybody what a shitstorm this would be if this was going to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of other potential buyers out there. There's been names listed like, the
Disney and
Comcast and stuff. And then people have even conjectured that, like, Tony Khan and his dad could buy it.
There's no chance in hell that's happening.
It seems unlikely. Stranger shit has happened for sure. But, I mean, yeah, my only assumption is that we'll release this podcast Friday morning early. I won't have it posted at 6 a.m. like I normally do, because I'm not going to get to edit tonight. I'll get it an hour or two late tomorrow. Let me go ahead and pre-apologize to y'all for that. But my guess is some other wild shit will pop off probably
Disney will buy it.
A few hours after this podcast posts.
Disney will buy it, and they'll throw a fucking Roman Reigns a roller coaster ride right next to the Star Wars shit down at Disney World, and John Cena will have his own ride. If Disney does buy it, one cool thing, they would probably do like a physical WWE Hall of Fame, which I've been saying for years WWE needs to do, the same way that MLB does in football. Like, there needs to be some kind of physical presence that houses the entire history of the art form.
Yeah.
So Disney would probably do something like that, but yeah, we could see fucking, whoever might show up in Guardians of the Galaxy 5 as just themselves, right? Fucking just Sami Zayn. They just pop up and it's just a wrestling thing. You never know, man. Stranger, or, the Boogeyman. Do you remember, you were watching wrestling when the Boogeyman was around?
No.
I fucking loved the Boogeyman back in the day, man. He's just a straight up, I think he was like 45 when he debuted. He was an old guy. He used to eat worms and stuff. Ugh! Oh, yeah. He had a big clock, and he would come out and fucking smash it over his head for his entrance. Ugh. He was a character, man. Well, but yeah, wild shit.
I mean, we could talk in circles about this, because who knows what's going to happen. Do you want to move on, or you want to keep in, or you want to get to a little bit of action there? I got a little distracted Friday night, and I saw SmackDown. It was mostly uneventful. There's some dissension within the bloodline. Or it looks like Roman's fixing to turn on Sammy because he thinks Sammy's fucking some shit up, blaming Sammy for the loss that they had the week before.
Yeah. Although I will say this, we're getting Reigns and KO at Royal Rumble, right?
Looks like it. Yeah.
Elimination Chamber is in February. It is in Montreal. I would imagine that Reigns is going to be in the Elimination Chamber and defending the belt, which puts it at how many people are in Elimination Chamber? Is it 6? Yeah, it's 6 because 2 competitors start and there's 4 in the corners. If Sami Zayn does pull the trigger first and Helluva kicks Roman Reigns, you can feeling that Roman Reigns is about to turn on him, that fucking place in Montreal is going to explode. And it is going to be one hell of a moment if Reigns does like a Superman punch or whatever, and turns in the corner and fucking Sammy just races him and just smashes him with that kick. And pins him like 1, 2, 2.9, and Reigns kicks out. And then you'll know, because that's what KO's been saying this whole time, right? Do it to them before they do it to you.
Yeah.
Because if we're not going to get Sammy and Reigns the way that we want at WrestleMania, if that's not the plan, if it's going to be The Rock or it's going to be Cody Rhodes or whoever, we have to have some kind of
There's no satisfying end of the story unless it's Sammy and Roman.
Yeah, but I think we might want to. I don't think that's going to happen. As much as it's going to break my heart, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, will a Helluva kick to Reigns and a false, a near fall for Sammy winning the WWE Championship, would that be? I guess that's as good as a consolation prize is what we're going to get.
Yeah. I just happened to think about this, and which is why I'm shifting gears. But it seems to have been confirmed that Bray's brother is definitely Uncle Howdy. He was spotted backstage WWE last week. So all the signs are pointing to him.
Yeah.
And they're just dragging that story.
Yeah, and then we have the pairing of Drew McIntyre and Sheamus as the Banger Bros, which is just fantastic. And they know exactly what they're doing.
That was a funny segment in the bar. Did you see that?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're putting on Twitter like, oh, what should we get to the arena with? Oh, how about a van? How about a bus?
Yeah.
It's just, or I think today they were like, how about a taxi, fella? So they're just straight up leaning into all the porn puns that they can make while still being on network television.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, there wasn't much for me to talk about SmackDown, and I didn't see Raw.
I haven't watched Raw either. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I understand, it was mostly uneventful as well. Not to say that it was boring. I just, hell, I don't have anything to say about Rampage this week either. I need to start taking better notes of things on Friday nights. But
sometimes there's just nothing to.
Yeah,
they're just good matches, and that's kind of it, right? But nothing else.
I think we're seeing a little bit of a shake-up with Best Friends. I think we talked about it a little bit last week.
Yeah.
But we get another Orange Cassidy match Friday, I believe, on Rampage.
Yep.
Looks like they're putting him up pretty much every Friday. And I want to say this, too, before we get into the main shit about Dynamite from last night. Anytime Juice Robinson has been on TV before, I was like, well, whatever. Who's this dude? But he was entertaining in his promo last night, and I don't know if it was the crazy eyes or what.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's something with this guy, maybe.
It's the Rock hard.
Yeah.
It's the Rock. Yeah, go watch some of his New Japan promos, man. They're funny.
Yeah.
He's got that character nailed down. And he's another guy that I completely forgot about that they signed.
Yeah, because he hasn't been on TV.
He hadn't been on TV. Maybe and I don't even think he was wrestling in New Japan, so I don't know what the holdup has been. There's only 3 hours of programming AEW has, so everybody gets left by the wayside.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting left by the wayside, and I didn't bring this up before we started recording, but before we get into Dynamite, did you see the news that Dak said on his podcast about FTR?
I did, about them taking a little break.
Yeah, seems like they're going to take a break till their contract's up in April.
Yeah.
Which, before all this Vince McMahon and the rumors of a sale, what would you put the percentage chance that they went back to WWE? Probably 65, 70. It was probably high.
I mean, just in terms of the hope that I had, the hope was for the percentage was low, because I would love to see them stick around in AEW. But they don't really have anything left to prove there. But what are they going to do in WWE? I mean,
make more money. Here's the thing. Dax, on his podcast, if you listen to the clip, he was very adamant that wherever FTR / the Revival go next,
he did say
is going to be the end.
Yeah. He did say that it would be they got to think about their future in a bunch of different terms, and monetarily was one of them. And you're probably right, because he did mention in the tweet that I saw was like, we basically did everything we've ever wanted to do this last year.
Right.
And granted, one of the things he said was like, our bodies have been through hell, especially the last few months.
Yeah.
And that dog collar match, they're probably still fucking in pain from that. So,
yeah.
I ain't mad at him for wanting to take a little break. I would be sad to see him go, for sure. I'd like to see him come back and do a match or two before, if they do bounce when their contract is up. I'd like to see him come back and do a match or two as like a farewell in AEW. But I just don't think that, like, I don't know if the WWE crowd would appreciate him like the way that the AEW crowd
I think they will now. I think Cody debuting at WrestleMania has changed the game quite a bit, because Cody came in the exact same look, the same entrance song, the same damn entrance that he had in AEW, and he was welcomed back as a hero. I mean, he got the loudest pop at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of guys, FTR probably included, saw that and was like, okay, so we can go back and the people will still know who we are, because there's a lot of crossover between WWE and AEW fans. Like, they know.
Yeah.
The hardcore fans know. And you have to think, like he talked about on his podcast, Dax did, at their age, the money, and what's the one thing that they haven't done yet? They haven't had a big-time spot at WrestleMania. And so is the allure of, having that one iconic moment where they hear their music at WrestleMania and they walk down the ramp and there's 90,000 people screaming their name, like, Well,
see, they wouldn't get that chance this year anyway, because Mania will be over by then.
And Mania will be over by then, yeah. But you have to think, next year, But all that was before this Vince McMahon stuff broke out, right?
Yeah.
And you got to think that old fucker could come in and say, I don't, like he has before, he really doesn't give a shit about tag team wrestling. What if he takes back over creative control? And now FTR's there in a 2-year contract or whatever, barely on the show. At least in AEW, you have, kind of what it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then, as AEW grows, and there's probably going to be more money on the table for AEW. They've talked about potentially doing house shows in the future. That would be some more money.
I mean, that was pretty much the main reason why they said they brought in Jeff Jarrett, right?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So, it'll be interesting. Hell of a tag team. I think they won Tag Team of the Year this past year for good reason.
Yeah.
And it's all about legacy building at this point. So we'll see what happens. We have I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen the last of Dax and Cash and All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, it'd be a bummer. I would hope they would come back for a last match or two, but you never know. And there's not much time between now and April, as long as it seems. It seems like it's kind of far away, but we're already midway through January, so April will be here before you know it.
And here's the thing. Are their contracts up at the end of April? When's WrestleMania? Let me look it up real quick.
I don't know.
Because if WrestleMania is April the 2nd and their contract's up April the 1st.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I was thinking Mania was like the end of March for some reason.
WrestleMania 2023 starts on Saturday, April the 1st, and ends Sunday, April the 2nd.
Damn.
I mean, I'm just saying, crazier things have happened. Fucking Vince McMahon came back.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I don't know what legalese, But it could be the end of April, right? April 31st, and all of it's mute. But that would make Monday Night Raw, where we see a bunch of big returns happen, April the 3rd. Their contract's up on April the 1st. There's a lot of time there they could pop back up.
Well, let's get into AEW for now. I think I know you wanted to shift focus around and talk about the blaring omission from last night before we get into any matches.
So we had a podcast, and you tweeted this. We had a podcast title. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago?
Last week.
Nobody believes Toni Storm is a mystery partner.
Yeah.
Well, fuck us, because she was.
Yeah. I screenshotted the podcast from Apple Music or Apple Podcast, whatever the fuck they call it these days. Screenshotted that earlier this afternoon. I was like, well, this didn't hold up too well.
Let me just say this, because I've seen some people defending this on Twitter saying, well, AEW never said she was going to be there, and they made Toni Storm the partner 2 weeks ago. I don't give a shit, okay? Because you had Britt Baker out there on the pre-tape saying she was the boss. Mm-hmm. The second you say anybody's going to have a mystery partner, throughout the entire time of wrestling history, it's either been one of two things. It's been a debut of a brand new wrestler to the territory or to the show or whatever, or it's been somebody coming back from injury, right? Those are the only two times a mystery partner's ever... That's the only reason you do it.
Yeah, you don't say it's a mystery partner if it's just like, oh, I can't make this decision between these two people.
Right.
That's not a mystery partner.
So, one of two things has either happened. Either they wanted to do this mystery partner thing to tease us, to get us to watch the show, and Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks was nowhere close to Eve. They weren't even talking to her, right? Or maybe they talked to her, but they were nowhere close money-wise, and so it was never going to happen. But they were like, oh, let us make people think she's going to be there so they'll watch the show. That's horseshit. That's if that's the case. Or two, Tony called a shot a little bit too early and was like, hey, I can get her. Just say she's going to be here. She'll be in a tag team match on the 11th in Los Angeles. So just say it's a mystery partner. And then last week, or when they announced, like, oh, shit, we can't get her. Now we have to do something. Well, that's a stupid-ass business move if you did it that way.
Yeah, it's not... Whatever you were trying to do did not work.
You didn't. And you didn't completely kill the match, but you could just hear it. They were so hyped when Tony's music hit, because they were like, oh shit, this is where it's about to happen. Mercedes Moné is going to be here, Sasha Banks. They were hyped as shit when Jamie Hayter's music hit. And then when the bell rung, people were like, oh.
They went quiet.
Okay, so there's just a match. Then when Sheeta came out, they got a little bit more excited because they were like, oh shit, okay, here's a third person. What is Sheeta going to do? Is she going to turn? And then we get a Mercedes comes out that way. And then, match just kept going. And it was a good match. But you completely killed it by doing all this horse shit around it that made people think it was something else. And from the reports I saw on Twitter, as soon as the match ended, they threw it back to a promo package or whatever on the television. But in the arena, people started booing.
Yeah, I read that too.
AEW is not in the position to play with people's expectations like this.
Right.
And they need to be very careful because they are a young company, and this is not the way that you go about, I think, treating the fan base. Now, the other company, WWE, they do this shit all the time, right?
Yeah.
But they can do that.
Well, and the crowd was not as hype as Seattle was last week. Like, the crowd was either pretty hot or just fucking cold. Like, they were cold through a lot of that match. They started off real cold on Danielson and Takeshita. But they had no choice then to get hyped by the end of that one. We'll get to that in a minute. But the crowd was hit or miss.
I think it was
the
Mercedes stuff. They were expecting something else to happen, and AEW gave them every single reason to expect that.
Yeah,
like you have to have the wherewithal to know if we're going to do a tag team match and we're going to say Saraya's going to have a mystery partner, the internet is going to do its work. And it's going to book this thing for us.
Right.
So we need to be careful. If we want to have this tag team match and have 4 of our biggest women competitors in this match in Los Angeles, we need to book it a different way. Perhaps we go ahead and announce that Tony's the partner or whatever. Or maybe we put Saraya on the shelf or whatever. I don't know. There's fucking any other dozen of ways you could have done this and got the same exact result.
Yeah.
And never had a mystery partner.
I mean, because they could have very well booked her and not had this whole mystery, like you said, not had this mystery partner thing. It could have just been like Saraya and Tony versus Britt. And
Saraya got jumped 2 weeks ago, and she does a thing from the hospital or thing saying like, hey, Los Angeles, there's two of you, you know, me and Tony, you just jumped us. We'll see you in L.A.
Yeah.
Boom. Same exact result.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Or just fucking run a rematch of all Britt and Saraya and Jamie and Tony. That would have been better in singles matches.
Yeah.
But when you just did find somebody, and then you throw up the graphic, and Excalibur's like, Saraya and her mystery partner. Okay, well, and it's in January, middle of January, after we know that her contract's legally up from WWE in January.
Yeah, because you could have been like, because like you said, they just threw the graphic up. It could have been like Saraya and TBD versus to be determined is way different than
you can't.
fucking mystery partner.
Even that way, you can't throw any. You cannot have a graphic that has a blank outline because people are going to fill that with whoever.
Yeah,
you have to put it out there explicitly. This is what we're going to do, and you know, figure out a creative way to get there. And then, say you do the match, you know, and you're like, we're going to go ahead and announce Toni Storm, but we're still hoping that, you know, Mercedes, we're going to sign her, and she'll debut. Cool. If you sign her, Dynamite opens last night, and Renee's backstage, and Tony's laid out, and Renee's like, we don't know what happened. Toni Storm, like, she's got to go to the hospital. She's been, you know, is the match going to still happen? Then people go, okay, shit, something's about to happen. Then you just book her that way.
Yeah. Well, let's circle back and let's go through a couple of the matches. Finally got the big match between Moxley and Hangman. We were out of town. We were in Pensacola the night the Hangman got injured for some work stuff. And it's been, almost 3 months, they said.
It was October, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we finally got that match last night. I mean, they just beat the living shit out of each other for a while, and then it wasn't like spot fest, but it kind of became, because, you know, neither one of those dudes are like high flyers or whatever, but they hit a lot of good sequences on each other. You know, and it looked like with the way it ended, Mox might finally get his vacation.
I love the way that it ended.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is playing on and they played up the whole spot. They did the same exact spot. Hangman sold it like he did. Was grabbing his head like, oh, shit, maybe it would have happened again. But then at the end, right, they mirror that with Moxley's. And we've seen this in UFC quite a bit where guys get knocked out and they tackle the ref or they keep trying to fight like they don't know what happened. So I like that at the end of that match. This was physical. It was intense. It was everything we expected it to be. Just a little production note. I feel like they have mic'd everything up better than what they have like 3 weeks ago, because all the chops sounded like damn hand grenades.
Yeah,
and you could really hear the forearms laying in. You could hear the crowd way better. And you know, we talked about that guy that they signed from WWE that was you know, supposed to be the heir apparent to Kevin Dunn.
Yeah,
it seems like he has come in. If he's responsible for this, and why would he not be? I mean, he's a production guy.
Yeah,
it seems like he's come in and made his mark on this program like instantly.
Yeah, I mean,
the hard camera's a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I went back and watched 2 minutes of a Dynamite from like 2 months ago, and the hard camera is like zoomed in more.
Yeah, and
it gives a more like intimate feel. And yeah, it just sounds like the production audio is way better.
Yeah, you might be right. It's a little risky to do that with AEW because they let a lot of stuff fly in the ring. And even like they mouth, you know, the F-bombs and shit like that. Like,
yeah, but I don't think AEW cares.
Right. But they probably don't have those mics live, you know, when the music's playing like that anyway, and, you know, Moxley standing on the ropes saying, "Come on, motherfucker," or whatever.
Yeah.
The mic, wherever the mics are, they're probably not going to pick them up with the music that loud. And B, they're not really letting that kind of stuff fly in the middle of the matches anyway, because they know everything's a little more quiet. Typically.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could be right. I mean, there's places you could hide microphones. You could hide them, you know, under the little robotic cameras on either side of the ring that they have.
Yeah.
Clip a little mic right there.
Ring placement, all kind. I mean, this dude has come from a place that has the production of professional wrestling down pat.
Yeah.
So it's the machine over there at WWE. So you just come over and you're just like, hey, we'll do this is the way they do it, and then I have some ideas about ways that I would want to do it.
Right.
You meld those together, and it makes a difference. The show just looks better from just a presentation standpoint. The color scheme, the red and blue, everything looks like it flows a lot better.
Yeah, and you can't ask for a better way to start the night with these two guys going out there and just giving it their all. I like you said, I like the way it ended. They've done nothing but talk shit on each other for the last few weeks, but in the end, I thought it was a nice little hey, I'm concerned about this guy. I know I just beat the fuck out of him, but
and that's the difference between Hangman and Moxley, right?
Yeah.
Just their characters.
Yeah.
You saw that bit of concern from Hangman that you didn't see from Moxley. Or Moxley, when that happened, he immediately got the microphone and was like, this is a tough business, like no kind of remorse. And it's live television, he had to kind of do that, but then they played it up, I think, pretty brilliantly with the promos afterwards, where basically Moxley was making fun of him, right, cracking jokes. And that's the difference between a guy like Moxley and a guy like Hangman. Hangman's character of just the way he is, he resembles so much of just like a person of like our generation in a way that I don't know if any professional wrestler ever has. Like there's a macho element to Hangman, but also there's a vulnerability that like historically professional wrestlers have never had.
I mean, he has shirts on him that say "Anxious Millennial Cowboy."
Yeah, and
I mean that would, if you said that kind of shit in the 80s, you would have gotten laughed out of the building.
Yeah, he's like the perfect wrestler for this time period.
Yeah, I mean, he goes out, like, when there was all the controversial shit in Florida with the Don't Say Gay and all that stuff, and he goes out in Florida that week with, like, a rainbow-colored fucking vest on.
Yeah.
It was like, what?
Yeah.
I love it.
But even just, like, showing concern for your opponent like that. Like, I get he's the babyface, but, like, also, I mean, he should have. Yeah, he wanted his revenge, but up to a certain point, right? And when the point crossed the line where it went outside of competitiveness, that's where you saw that concern, and he kind of walks back up the ramp, anxious, anxious looking. So, true to form.
Yeah, I was down with it. It was everything I kind of expected it to be, wanted it to be. Those two guys aren't going to let you down when you start off a show.
No.
So the surprise for me of the night was Adam Cole being back. And I missed the pop on TV. I was away from home for a little bit, so I got home, and I was scrolling through fucking Facebook and saw it on Facebook before I saw the actual show.
That AEW Facebook page, they're quick. They got a quick trigger.
Yeah, they don't fuck around.
They throw that shit up.
I should know better at this point, but I didn't. I just wasn't. Excuse me, I wasn't thinking. I'm not the biggest Adam Cole fan, but like his promo was really fucking good last night. I mean, maybe a couple minutes too long, but I was in it to win it with his promo last night. I don't know what you do with him. He doesn't have his stable there really anymore. But
he's a babyface at this point,
right?
I mean, he left as a heel, but he ain't. You can't bring him back as a heel,
right?
After that, and from everything that I've ever read about Adam Cole, the person backstage, like nobody has a bad word to say about him. Even a guy like Eddie Kingston, who will like shit on people in interviews. There's tons of interviews where they're talking about like different wrestlers, and he'll mention like Adam Cole and how much of a sweetheart he is. And I think one I saw, he was like, "Oh, he's too pretty to be a wrestler.
Yeah,
his hair's too pretty." But yeah, that crowd was it was hyped last night. It was a big surprise, huge pop.
Yeah.
AEW, I think, kind of needs him back. I'm not gonna say that the show has missed him, because I think here recently the show. Well, there were points where the show probably missed a person of his star caliber, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The last probably month or so, that probably hasn't been the case. But if we're not gonna have FTR till April, and some of these other guys are gone too. Maybe some other people are going back to WWE. Adam Cole seems like a guy who's pretty content to be in AEW.
And until WWE eases up on their Twitch restrictions.
Yeah, because he's been adamant that's not gonna. He's never gonna give that Twitch channel away. Yeah, I want to see what he looks like in the ring. I mean, he's the perfect kind of person now as a babyface to throw up against MJF, right?
You know, we kind of shit on him for his physique before, but I mean, he's had months off. You know, like, and you notice he was all fully clothed, shirt, jacket, and everything last night. I'm like, I mean, he could be ripped as hell under there.
Yeah, you know who knows. You know, we've never questioned his talent in the ring.
No.
He's got a motor and can go as good as anybody. So, you know, the question now, like so many of these guys when they come back, is what do you do with them?
Yeah.
Whose spot do they take? Where do you place them? You know, a guy like Adam Cole doesn't need to be going after the TNT title or the All Atlantic title or anything like that. I mean, that's a world champion. I would be down to see MJF versus Adam Cole.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Well, let's skip forward a little bit. This is my complaint. MJF comes out last night for 15 minutes before the Takeshita and Danielson match, and it's like, well, you know, I got to put you through all these hoops, right?
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be like the top 5 contenders or whatever, right? Well, you can't tell me that right now Takeshita is a top 5 defender. We love Takeshita. We are a Team Takeshita podcast.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll find bigger Takeshita fans in the country than you will find in this room presently. But next week, Danielson's facing Bandito. You cannot tell me that this is the only reason this match happened last night and Danielson has to face Bandito, who we're supposed to believe is a top 5 contender, is because fucking Danielson wants to wrestle these dudes.
And that's the only reason. They have no reason in kayfabe for him to be going up against. And also, like, even if MJF was going to pick the opponents, right? Bandito, I'm pretty sure, is smaller than Danielson. Now, Takeshita, I could see, right? We talked about Takeshita even last night. Dude looks like a fucking middle linebacker. Yeah. I mean, he's 6'4", easy. He's humongous.
Yeah.
So I get, like, MJF being like, yeah, Takeshita, you go. But, like, Bandito, and I like Bandito, too.
Yeah.
But it's like you said.
I ain't shitting on him.
The only reason we're getting these matches is because this is what Danielson wants to do.
Yeah, don't tell me it's a top 5 situation, because it ain't. You can just be like, hey, I got some dudes I think can probably take you.
Yeah.
And I'll be fine with that.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell me it's a top 5, because these guys are not top 5ers right now.
Yeah.
Takeshita will be by the end of the year.
Yeah.
He'll be in the top 5 easy, I think.
Do they even do the rankings anymore?
Not like they did.
Okay.
It's still early in the year. They have started being like 1-0 for since January, because they reset that shit like every year.
Right, but I'm talking about like the graphics they put out.
No,
they used to put out. They stopped doing that.
I haven't seen a graphic on screen in a minute. I think they might still do them on the website.
Okay, that's what I'm talking. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But they used to put them on screen every once in a while.
Because you would think, like, if MJF really wanted to fuck over Danielson, like Lance Archer, or like any of these dudes, Big Bill.
Yeah, Big Bill.
Any of these guys.
What
did you think about MJF's promo against Takeshita?
It's getting a little boring.
So we talked about how he has to. I gave the reasoning last week that he has to do this hokey stuff or else the crowd's going to cheer for him. I don't know if I would lean this far into it, though. This is like, he was making fun of the accent and we speak American and all this stuff, which is funny coming from a guy who has complained about racism in the past, right?
Right.
Not only online, but on screen as a character. He's better than this. I don't know who's feeding him ideas now. This is a guy in MJF who cut a promo where he fucking cried.
Right.
That we thought was absolutely brilliant. That whole entire feud against CM Punk, every time he grabbed the microphone, it was electric.
Best story of the last year.
By far. Not even close. And to go from, where there's a bloodied CM Punk and he's got the microphone, he's holding his head, and he's like, "You stupid old man, like I'm the devil." To go from that to now, Wednesday night, he goes, "Oh, we speak American here," but it's just like, I don't know if this is. Surely there's a different way we could go about this.
Yeah. I did love the when Takeshita was like, "I just said kiss my ass."
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever the translation.
And then he's doing I'm even okay with like the goofy ass run back up the ramp.
Yeah, that was
because it's a little gif. Like that's funny. I'm okay with that, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
they need to be careful. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it was a little long. You don't need him to go on that long. When you know that you got. I mean, they had less than 20 minutes to get in the final match of the night, which was a Game 7 match.
Well, I think they wanted to show that, like, Ken Jeong is here and Freddie Prinze Jr. is here and all these, like, celebrity adjacent.
But it had already gotten,
people.
like, a little too long at that point, I felt like.
Yeah.
The match itself, though, I mean, was, to me, the best of the night between Danielson and Takeshita.
Yeah.
God damn, those two guys, man, just went after each other.
Yeah,
and it was just fucking awesome.
We're just be grateful every time you get to see Danielson step in the ring.
I mean, and to be able to lift people like Takeshita up and to put a spotlight on him, like, I think it says a lot about Danielson. And obviously there was a show of respect there at the end, and I always like that when I don't know. I'm a little softy at heart, but like, so with somebody like Danielson, like, it means something.
And even like, let's go back behind the scenes, right? To the guy like Takeshita who has, come over to this country, has uprooted his entire life to try to make a name for himself here in the States. Clearly has watched Danielson throughout his entire career, has a lot of respect for him. A guy in Danielson who a lot of us consider to be the greatest in-ring wrestler of all time. And this dude looks at you and was like, "Yeah, if I have this program, I want to work with you. I want to work with Bandito." Like, if you get the Danielson seal of approval these next 5 weeks, that means that, like, you probably have a bright future in AEW.
Yeah, you're gonna be all right.
You're gonna be all right. Yeah. And so Bandito next week's the same thing.
Yeah.
I wonder who else will be. We'll have 3 more.
It's be interesting to see who else they put up against him.
Yeah.
Do
we get a Danielson Kingston match? Does it happen at all? Eddie Kingston, not a fan of Danielson in the way that the rest of us are. But could that be something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We will get to see our man Eddie on TV tonight after this podcast.
Yeah, he'll be on with the House of Black stuff.
Yeah. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's circle back for like just real quick hitter on Lee Moriarty and Big Bill versus Jungle Hook. I mean, that's probably a one-time team up between them, right? Just because they were getting beat up by the Firm for a little bit, so they were like, "Fuck it, let's team up."
Yeah, and it's a way to get Hook on a big card.
Yeah. The really the only thing I want to talk about is the big move with Hook and Big Bill.
Yeah.
Like, Big Bill sold it at least.
And he sold it the right way. Like, he took it, gave a little bit, powdered out, and then his face was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Like, I just got tossed.
Yeah.
You can still tell Hook is very green. And they cut around it. Looks like maybe Hook might have fucked up the finish of this match.
Yeah, because he was off screen. Like,
he was off screen, and Big Bill was off screen, but could have made the save to break up the pin. But they cut to a close up of Moriarty. Like, it looked like there was maybe something that happened on that side. But the kid is, he's only been wrestling for a year, and he's not even had. It's not like in WWE where, like, if you're a rookie, by the time the house shows come around and the fucking dark matches and stuff, you probably fucking wrestled 100 times that year, right?
Yeah.
AEW they work 1 day a week. And he ain't even on every single show. So, like, how many matches has he had? Probably, a little more than a dozen? So, he's not getting a lot of experience, which And it's probably another good thing for if they do decide to have these house shows, because then on Saturdays and Sundays these guys just get reps.
Yeah.
And you need that. A lot of these guys need that, especially if they're not going to work the indies.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these people don't. So, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's like you said, it's just a one-time team up. Jungle Boy, Jack's from LA, so you give the hometown boy the pop. Yeah, that's all this was.
So next up was the ladies tag team match. We didn't talk about the match itself really, but just real quick, I mean, there were a couple of moments where I felt like Saraya was off and like she didn't have her timing right, and then there were a couple of moments where I thought she looked really great. So she hadn't wrestled in 7 years.
That rust's gonna take time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of times I thought she looked really great. I mean, and her presence makes up for her rust at this point. You know, like, to me it does. Like,
yeah.
You know, you pay attention when she's in the ring. But I mean, hate her, like, people fucking love her so much.
I mean,
right
she radiates off the screen at this point.
Yeah.
And she pops in a way that these other women don't. And that's why fans have got behind her.
Yeah.
You know, pat ourselves on the back. We were some of the first.
And
I've been talking
energy
about this shit for a minute, so.
Yeah, I was a little slow to come around, but like, yeah, I mean, you can't.
Jamie Hayter's the best women's wrestler in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
you can't deny it right now.
It's just, I love people too. This is such a nerdy thing. People with big coats for entrances, fucking love it. She's got one. Swerve has one. The bigger the coat, the more badass you look, I think. Fluff, the feathers, all kinds of shit like that.
It all goes back to the Ric Flair robes, probably, right?
Oh, yeah. And it goes back even further than that, right? I mean, Gorgeous George, and if you want to go way far back, you know, royalty from the medieval times with the fucking long robes and shit. Like, it's all kinds of... We're probably just ingrained to fucking respond to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess one big little character development was Sheeta throwing the kendo stick in the middle.
Yeah, that was interesting because they kept playing it off like it was supposed to be, you know, for... who was in the ring at the time? It wasn't Saraya wasn't in there. It was supposed to be for Tony Storm to use.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it wasn't anywhere fucking close to Tony Storm.
No, it was right in the middle of them. And if you'll notice, commentary last night played up the whole, Tony and Saraya have, you know, achieved things outside of AEW. Jamie and Britt, AEW Originals. Sheeta, AEW Originals. They're going to do that story, and they should.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it last week. That's such an easy story to do. It's one that needs to be explicitly made. So maybe there is still hope that, you know, Mercedes, FKA at this point, Sasha Banks comes in and interjects herself into this story.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the way they're going to go with it.
Yeah. Well, and last but not least, Game 7.
Game 7.
I loved how they just were like, fuck it, Game 7.
I also liked how Renee, and this is why you use Renee, this is why she's so fucking good, like, hey, we want to get across that, like, they ain't been a Game 7 in this building since the damn 80s. Like, this is historic. And just have Renee to be outside the locker room like it's a real-life sport. Anytime professional wrestling can mimic real-life sports, it's a net good.
Yeah.
And so that's why you bring somebody like her in, because she can just stand back. You can toss it back. Hey, you got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
She can be like, Game 7, last time it was here against the Pistons.
I mean, this isn't probably surprising to anybody, but this shit was wild.
I mean, yeah. What else were we going to expect at this point?
Yeah.
Kenny Omega pulling out the old school spot that I think was in the second Okada match where he does the tope over the ropes but just goes through the table instead of hitting anybody. Crazy ass bump.
I saw there was somebody with some wild fucking handle on TikTok this morning. Clearly was front row, and if you want to say directly in front of the table, but like maybe two people over, right?
Yeah.
He had that angle.
Yeah.
Of Kenny and like Pac just getting up and jumping off the table, and Kenny just landing, crashing that motherfucker.
I wish people could understand the level of athleticism that takes. Because not only do you have to clear the rope, but you have to gauge it correctly enough so that you land straight back on the table, and you don't undershoot it to where your legs hit and your head bounces off, or you overshoot it and break your damn back.
And this is all the while doing a flip in the middle of the fucking air.
Yeah. He's fantastic. Like, he's amazing. I'm so glad that he's back. And I guess is back at full strength, or at least is not giving a shit at this point.
He did a goddamn one-winged angel into the ladder that they had made into sort of like a bridge between the rope and the other ladder.
Yeah.
And then he did one off of the goddamn ladder onto the mat. Yeah. I always loved the one-winged angel, like, when he jumps off of something onto something else. Like, you're down to something. Yeah. It's always way more fucking brutal looking to me.
Yeah. You know, and we saw V-triggers. We saw super kicks. There were more table spots. There were, like, out-of-nowhere table spots, which you hardly ever see. But, like, we see out-of-nowhere, like, super kicks or cutters, right? You rarely ever see, like... Okay, yeah, we're just going, here's this table, and I'm just jumping. It's off the screen, but I'm going to jump on it. When the camera catches up to me, I'm going through a table. Like, just crazy stuff like that. This has been fun. I mean, this has been a success, and it's certainly elevated those trios titles, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I think that everyone kind of expected maybe some shenanigans to happen after the fact, maybe a House of Black or something.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you just answered my question. Was my DVR just fucking stopped? Like,
yeah,
and I was like, did anything happen? And I didn't read any reports this morning, so I didn't assume it did. But
yeah, they just went off the air with the Elite on top of the table. Now, again, we mentioned FTR at the beginning. FTR is good friends with one Mr. CM Punk, who by all reports looks like he might be healthy enough to wrestle again in April. I am just saying. If you are a businessman and you want to try to steal some thunder away from the other company, which we have to... I don't think you and I think of WWE and AEW this way as being competitive, but those people in those businesses sure as hell do think of that. Like, billionaires are competitive. If you fucking have a debuting CM Punk stand at the ramp with the Elite,
the numbers were back up last night too,
and Kenny says something like, "Oh, there's one of you and three of us," and then we hear doop, 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 and out step Dax and Cash. I mean, it's there.
Okay, how? Okay,
it's there.
Here, hey, it would be wild, if you just hear the static, and then, so that happens for 5 minutes because he's gonna run around and get his glory, and then, like you said, they start talking to each other from the ring to the edge of the fucking ramp, and then, dun 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 dun.
I mean, that's. You want to try to take some eyeballs away from the other place, and you want to try to steal some of that momentum that they're going to have, because they're about to have Cena and The Rock and Stone Cold.
I mean, that would immediately get you over 1 million the next week, because they were at like 950 something last night from what I read from Alvarez on Twitter today, because they had dropped a little. They were back up some last night, but they were getting over 1 million. You know, I said that I don't think their numbers were affected that much by Punk in the long run. I mean, initially I think there were, but like, you know, they started dropping some anyway, but like, I think you get them back up real fucking high again real quick with...
And who knows about the TV numbers? Like, where do they even get that shit from? Who knows? I'm just talking about like the buzz online.
Oh, yeah.
Like Twitter and TikTok and people sharing the clips and stuff. That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Reddit, all that kind of stuff. And so, it's if the Elite, it's January, the Elite can run through a lot of people till April. That's only 4 months away. If everybody's going to be here, if you can get all these parties involved and get them at a table, can you give me 3 months?
Yeah.
You know? It probably won't even be like, if Punk and FTR's coming back, I mean, they're coming back, you would have to think, right? It's not going to be it won't, in FTR's case, it won't be like an extension thing. Like, if they re-sign with AEW, they're re-signing for probably a lot of money and to do some big name shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we know the history that they have with the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
You know, potentially their relationship's probably not that good, which is why the big match for all the titles didn't happen back at All Out. So, I don't know. It's there. It's fucking right there if you want to do it. If you can pull it off. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious about what's going to pop off in the hours after this is released tomorrow.
Yeah, what are we going to miss this time? Be a week behind.
Yeah. So y'all tweet at us in the morning and let us know what you think could happen at Alabama Slam Pod, at Alabama Slam Pod on Twitter, and then we're there also on Instagram. We have a new Facebook page. Just look up the Alabama Slam Podcast on Facebook and go follow the Alabama Take on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, sort of our network of friends and fellow podcasters and writers and essayists. Essayist, is that a word?
Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah, go follow that as well. New shit goes up almost every day on the site over there. We've got like 4 or 5 different podcasts going with fellow podcasters now. Big fun, and I swear to God, I'll try to get back into the habit of the prompt of the week. I just keep fucking forgetting. I got a bunch of shit happening right now.
Hey, we're gonna be at the GCW show on the 21st.
GCW, yeah. And did you say they announced Marco Stunt?
Marco Stunt versus Action Mike Jackson.
Yeah.
Should be a good show, man. Should be crazy as hell. So if you're there, if you're in the Huntsville area and you're a listener, you'll see us. We'll be around.
Yeah, I may wear my Alabama Slam T-shirt there as well.
I guess I could just bring my coffee cup
and just walk
hold
it
around
up
with
in the air.
Yeah, just hold it up.
So yeah, we're super excited about that, and I'm sure we'll have some commentary on that the week after. But I mean, for now, this is we'll be doing a lot of podcasts online via Riverside in the near future. Patrick and I will no longer be across the hall office mates after tomorrow. But we'll still do some in person because we don't live that far from each other. And I feel like they're always way better when we can get together in the same room anyway. But yeah, just wanted to say that. And then we'll holler at y'all next Friday and hopefully have some crazy shit to talk about.
It should be crazy as always. Later, guys.